on the Democrat side, Senator Kelly Marsh, Taitano. Good morning, Senator. Ooh, I think you might have to unmute your...
Okay, there we go.
Right on.
Half a day, banana seeds.
You're a pro at this.
Yeah, I mean, we all should be Zoom
I've
pros.
got a bit of it down.
Senator, we'll just get right into it and maybe address some of those criticisms that we've heard from, some Democrat candidates, a lot of them Republicans, though, about your colleagues and your ability to hold this administration accountable and call for transparency. Do you think that you have done a good job at that, Senator?
Well, that's definitely something that I've been thinking about. And just this morning, I was talking to my team, my staff, about having a couple more oversight hearings just to keep on top of some of these things. As we talked about not too long ago, we've had that overturn of directors at the Department of Parks and Rec. Well, he's been there for a little while, so let's get them in here and let's get some updates now that he's had a bit of time to get used to his seat and his responsibilities. Let's hear what his plans are. Let's find out what the track is for the pool. I mean, these are some reoccurring issues and we want to stay on top of it. And I would say, now I don't know how many years it's been, but I was the first one in a long time to actually subpoena one of our agencies when we found out that we found this out after a couple of oversight hearings, but they had $1 million worth of documents, and those $1 million worth of documents actually didn't exist, according to what they've said, even up till now, on their desktop, or anywhere in the office. And so we subpoenaed them, and we made sure that they got a hold of their contracting company and got those documents. So, I've done those sort of things.
Mm-hmm. And are we talking about HRRA?
Yes,
Okay.
that was the actual finding. I know that people had some, they were unsure about how to deal with this, but that was the finding. The finding was that there had been $1 million worth, rounding off numbers, $1 million worth of documents. Most of those documents, except for just one small $50,000 project, were paid for 100%. A year later, essentially, we had been asking for these documents just to make sure that they were indeed turned in, that we got to see them, that they were indeed quality products. And almost a year later, we hadn't received them. So we tried to ask, we tried to have meetings, and then we went FOIAs, and after 2 or 3 FOIAs were not complied with, the last one took, I'm kind of saying now, I'm going off the top of my head, the last one took maybe 3 months for them to comply with. And you guys FOIA, it's supposed to be within 4 or 10 days. So we just were persistent. We held to it until they provided all the documents. And we feel better because those documents are now secured on their laptops where they belong in their office. So at the end of the day, I feel that the people were served with that. And then also regarding the pools, we had oversights, or I had oversights hearings until we found out that the contractor was not apparently living up to the terms, and we had that, sorry, I keep on talking and we, like, our office, but that contract was eventually terminated because it was not serving the best interest of the people. And so I've had to do some of that towing a hard line and making sure that the public interests are being met as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. So, Senator, what do you plan on doing, though, if you are reelected into the 36th Guam legislature?
Well, that's a very good question, of course. And I've already had to start making a hard shift. So with this shift, my tagline in running last term was about caring about some of these really vulnerable parts of our government and our community, that being the community itself and the social ills that we deal with. It's about the culture itself and our environment. But while those are still important, we have a lot of issues on hand right now. So it's had to do a hard turn left, if you will, to focusing on the economy. The economy was always part of it, but now it has to be the economy as first and foremost, and then the others are still going to continue to be concerns, but they have to be what are supported by focusing on the economy. So I've been looking for new industries. I've been looking at ways to expand the industries that are surviving or that we have in place. I've been looking regionally as to how we can build up some networks within the region. I'm looking at agriculture, aquaculture, where we are getting the Taiwan office back here, and Taiwan is amazing in R&D. They experiment with agriculture and develop new hybrid species that are amazing, or at least some of them, the ones I've tried are like the peach mango. They've developed something like 5 new types of these ornamental fishes, so that fish collectors around the world will reach out to them to continue building up their collection. So I think we can benefit a lot from having this relationship and building on it with Taiwan. Palau has done a lot of R&D with Taiwan, and they've done a lot of experiments and building up with fish farms, with shrimp farms, with crab farms. So I see that we have some good models here that we can be building on, learning from, but then also be developing some trading partnerships with, like with Rhoda. Rhoda has decided to build up their economy, at least part of it, by stepping up their agriculture. And so we get I put taro and yams together. We get taro from them, we get yams from them, we get string beans from them. And so they've done very good things for our food security and our food sovereignty, but there are ways that maybe we can be growing or producing something that we can also be exporting to them. So these are the many things that I've been looking at, and I want to continue to do this, or well, we just have to. We have to continue to do this kind of work to re-envision our economy and ourselves.
Mm-hmm. What about currently, though? You guys are in budget talks, and first we were talking about a shortfall. Now we're talking about a $29 million surplus. I'm almost scared to see what we're going to be talking about
tomorrow.
Today, actually, when you guys go in.
Right. So even though we're throwing those numbers around, we are planning for, right now it's at a $775 million budget, which is far less than it was at the beginning of before COVID-19, and it's also far less than it was last fiscal term. So we're trying to deal with numbers as real as we can get them, which is hard to do right now. We're trying to use, I'm depending upon the experts and the economists there, but they're trying to predict as much as they can this somewhat unpredictable future that we have ahead of us. So we're all trying to be as conservative as possible, which is why a couple of weeks ago I had sent out that memo. So even though I had contacted some of the agencies and had some individual conversations with them, I sent out a memo and I said, look, we have to be real about this upcoming year. We're all probably going to have cuts, and we can fund certain basics, but you're going to have to be creative. And so I don't know, you guys have been following these kind of things. Is there anything that's ever been used before as a One Gov Guam approach? So I've been using that term. It's like we need to build on this concept of a One Gov Guam approach. How it might work for, let's say, Department of Parks and Recreation is they're low on maintenance people. I mean, we kind of all know that, right? And they've suffered for it, and the community suffered for it. So I've been pressing them all along to be building up those numbers or finding solutions. The Department of Public Works also has maintenance crew. So maybe we should just combine them and make them rotate around the island with their two different sets of properties that they upkeep.
Right.
We're doing something similar with the park officers, the patrol rangers, park rangers at DPR. Is they're now working with the Guam Police Department so that they're sharing resources back and forth. And I think we're just going to have to do more of that going forward into this year.
Senator, I know that you're really keen on a lot of the social problems, and obviously there's just an avalanche of social problems that kind of stem from people being unemployed. That being said, it almost seems like there's a spoil system in place that I kind of wanted to get your take on, and we see it with the unemployment program where they needed to hire all these people, and we had tens of thousands of people out of work. Did any of them get a shot? No. Instead, it was they got applications from a filing cabinet up at Adelup. We see here with public health where we get public health on, and they say, hey, we have such a shortage of nurses that we can't hold a community mass testing for the people of Guam. And then they go and they hire Janela Carrera over from Adelup, and they create some special position for her.
Right.
And we see it at the census where we have these jobs that could go to people who maybe aren't already, on the government payroll, but we don't. Instead, what we see is we see a spoil system where it's like the people who are in are getting the first crack at all the things. So what's your reaction to that? And should it be another way?
Well, as I was saying, I've got some good news for you, if you will. There are still census positions that are open, so people can still apply. With the census, they started prep work. You guys probably remember when they were making the calls months and months ago, and those positions were being called out. Those applications were happening months before COVID-19, but there are still positions. So if there are people that are interested, it's not a long term. Obviously, it's a limited term of time.
Yeah, because all the good positions got taken.
It's going to be a limited amount of time, and they're pretty good paying positions. So they are, to my understanding, they are still accepting positions, and people should be reaching out, or I can get that information, who to call and whatnot.
Right. But I think his question really was, what are you going to do to take politics out of the government and put the people first if elected?
Well, there were some statements made earlier about some of these things, and so I will get to that question as well, but one of the things, at least for me, I came from the world of advocacy, and that's still my stance, is that I'm here to do what I really feel are good things. I try to do the research. There isn't a single bill that we voted on that I haven't heavily researched and weighed things out. I've had many sleepless nights. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to have that every single month. And I've voted my conscience on each and every bill, and I'm really proud of that. Sometimes it's been standing up for for something that maybe is popular with one segment or another segment, but it has to be based on the data and what the data tells us is going to be good in the long term, or it just isn't developed yet.
30 seconds.
And I've been really bipartisan. If there is a bill that comes up, I have never torn it apart. I have always given whatever I can to build it up. And it didn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me where that bill is coming from. If it's for the good of the community, I have done what I could to make it as good as it is, so that I can vote for it in good conscience. And as much as possible, I've worked in a bipartisan way. In fact, I've taken it a step further, and I work across the political boundaries. So some of our issues, really, we deal with them in some of the vet issues our veterans issues and
Senator,
some of our
Senator,
national
sorry, but we
issues.
ran out of time. We ran out of time.
Sorry,
Just to be
Senator.
fair to all the other
Yeah,
candidates.
I was
but
trying
yeah,
to get you in at your 30-second marker, but I don't think you heard me.
Ew. Well, maybe that's a good way to end is, bipartisanism here and even with NMI.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Senator.
Senator. We'll see you after the primary.
Right on. Wash your hands.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
You know, I have seen Senator Marsh Taitano on session floor where she has been like on the brink of tears, and I want to say it was over the Mengafa bill, and how people were left behind. But you gotta just keep on going and do what you can to help people. And I was surprised. I mean, she really was really emotional when that came down.
Yeah, I think it's clear that, like she said, she does come from a background of advocacy.
Right.
And,
When we interviewed her in the last election, I didn't know, but she was once homeless. And then that was one of the things I did want to ask her about, how this whole homeless situation has been handled, but maybe the next time.
Right on, for the general. So tomorrow, guys, we're continuing our